Okay, folks, welcome to this morning's Saturday morning show. This is getting ahead of the game. I mean, literally just the last weeks of summer to prepare for your autumn selling. Now, as you would just say this morning, Perry, it's probably autumn already, even winter.
Well, it definitely felt like it this morning. I had a jumper on. I know you're not feeling it, Jim, because you're in a nice sunny place. But
We're
no,
about 40 degrees.
no, it's pretty nippy and it's definitely fresh. And I think when you think actually next week is September.
Yeah, that's frightening.
Aye, that's a wake up.
Up to Christmas, everything's in the shops.
Oh, I know, it's already started.
But actually, September brings a flood of property onto the market, but you can get ahead of the game by preparing to sell in August, can't you?
Definitely, and I think that's important. Being ready to sell in September, you definitely need to be going now because, as I say, September's next week. That means like starting to get your photos done now. You need to be getting things taken earlier in regards to what you're doing. You need to boost your home with some extra summer prep. Well, we've still got the sunnier weather, and that's what
Sunnier
the main
weather.
thing is.
The key here is it's sunnier weather, isn't it? And the difficulty is when it comes into this time of year, potentially it's a bit off season. Therefore, the sunnier weather is more difficult to find. And everybody always wants the photographs to be taken in sunnier weather, and everybody wants to take the photographs when the flowers are out. And everybody wants video done when it's the tides are in, the sun's out, there's no cloud in the sky, and everything's blue. And it's like, to get that all to coincide at the same time is not exactly easy. Hence the reason why the preparation is so key in the process, because you need to start earlier in order to make sure you hit the ground running at the right day. Now, what do I mean by that when I talk about that? Well, predominantly, it's if you don't have the tide in when the sun's out, if you're in a coastal village, for example, next to the Fife coastal park. Had to get that in there somewhere. If you don't have that all to coincide at the same time, then the difficulty out of this is you're going to have a waiting game. Now, if a seller, if you as a seller, anybody out there tuning in and listening in, if you as a seller leave it to the last minute and say, right, my house is critical, it's got to go in the market now. So the critical path analysis, it has to go on now. It has to go on this week because I've made an offer on another house. It's been accepted. It has to go on. It's like we've lost all that window of opportunity to try and get the sun out at the same time as the clouds, less clouds in the sky, to get at the same time as maybe a less windy day, to get it as a less raining day. All these different things to coincide at the same time, it's more difficult for us to go. So sometimes we've just got to go with what we've got. And then a seller, sometimes I'm saying, might typically say, oh, I would have preferred it to be a lot sunnier. Well, you've not really given us much choice. Yeah. It's like we just have to go with what we've got because you're telling us it's a critical path now and you've left it to the last minute. So, and I've heard that, I don't know if you've heard that from people, from sellers now and again. I mean, admittedly, it's once in a blue moon, but we're telling these stories in order to get people to understand the earlier you start the journey and prepare and plan, the easier it's going to be for the process to happen for you.
Absolutely. No, I do hear that, Jim. And actually, I've got a situation with a client at the moment who, for whatever reason that they've got personal going on, they can't actually list the property until towards the end of September. Yeah. So what I've said is, well, actually, that's fine, but let's get the photos done now, get the video done now, because actually then when September comes, we've captured those beautiful days. So I recorded the video and we did the photos on Thursday, and it was a beautiful blue sky day. Come the end of September, we're not going to have a beautiful blue sky day. So it's not just also about you being organised. If there's a critical path, but actually reasons that you can't list when you want to, talk to your agent, get an understanding, work around how that system can work better for you still so you can capitalise on it.
Yeah. I mean, the school year's effectively started in Scotland and it's just about to start in England now. So estate agents' diaries are filling up with valuations, photo shoots, which means a lot longer to wait to go live. Again, this is the key. It's a lot longer to wait to go live. Instead of launching in a crowd, give yourself that jump start by things like the things that we're going to talk about today. Let's talk about this and, the headlines. Inviting estate agents for advice and price and presentation, preparing your home for sale, getting ready for your photographer and your videographer as well, and even getting ready for your drone footage, your location footage as well. Because if you don't get the right circumstances, if it's raining a wee bit, a drone can't go up. If it's too windy, a drone can't go up. So therefore, this is all essentially you hit the market at the right time so people get the full flavour, because you really only get one impression, one chance to make a good impression at the first time, isn't it? And if you don't have that drone footage to coincide, you're goosed.
I would completely agree with that, actually. And if you miss that golden opportunity, and it's like everything else, the longer the property is listed, the harder it is for that glow to come through, isn't it? So you need to hit that at the beginning.
Now, I could hear a typical seller saying, well, why would it matter about my drone footage? Well, if you're near to areas of interest, to people that have no idea what your village or your town is or where it is, then how important will it be to them to be able to buy into maybe relocating to your area if they can't see something further afield? There has to be a compelling reason for people to move. Now, mostly it's circumstances that drives that. In other words, we're having a baby, we're splitting up, we're downsizing, all these different things. The kids are getting older, therefore they need a room to themselves. Well, that's just me showing my age. I had to share all my life with my brother up until I left the house. But that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. You need to be prepared well in advance. So it's all about laying the groundwork to find a new home to buy as well. So we've got expert tips, help, all the rest of it. So tune in, listen in. If you listen to the podcast or you're watching the video or you're reading the article, then if you've got questions, please feel free to ask. What is it? Someone once said to me, Jim, this was when I was actually trained to be an accountant. Jim, the stupidest question is the question that's never asked.
Correct.
And you don't know what you don't know. And if you ask somebody who's an expert in their field a question, they'll often give you an answer which you have no idea was ever real or ever existed. And that's maybe the answer that actually sets you free and releases you to go to the next steps in your journey in your life.
Yeah.
So let's talk about inviting estate agents to go and come into your home. I mean, what's the best way to go about that, Perry?
Certainly what we see often is actually the journey's just beginning for some of the sellers. And 9 times out of 10, they actually don't even understand what the property valuation amount is. So they don't know what numbers they're working to. So if they're upsizing or downsizing, they don't really know what pot of money they've got to play with, do they? So I think for me, absolutely, getting your agent out and getting that valuation is key at the beginning. You really need to be doing that now. We're going into September. Autumn's going to be here before we know it. So the advantages as well of picking an agent now is that you'll have a couple of weeks to prepare yourself. You don't want to be hitting the market with your home when the home is not showing at its best. And I think that's really key. You might need to fine tune a few things, like the campaign. We just spoke about that example there with this particular client who we've done the video now to prepare for when they are ready. So it's about being able to engage together on the journey and where are you, what do you need to achieve and how do we get you there? Because it's not one size fits all, is it, Jim? Everyone's different.
No, it's predominant. When you look at it, and you drive it down to it is we're selling houses. However, everybody's circumstances is completely different. It's everybody's circumstances is unique to that person. Whether it's just a fine adjustment or the fact that I don't know, maybe they're in a second home and maybe it's a capital gains tax issue and they have to get advice beforehand, so they know where their tax bill sits. Maybe it's they're in rented accommodation and then they want to move from there. These are all different things, and they've got a house somewhere else that they need to move back. There could be a minefield of information and a minefield of circumstances, which has to be thought out first before you take that next steps. I have a client just now who's, at some point in time in the next 18 months to 2 years is going to be severely impaired in terms of their vision. And so they're thinking about, maybe we should move now, maybe we should make sure maybe I should make sure I realise what my surroundings are like when we move to our next home. So rather than actually wait, I will actually be able to remember what my new home looks like and the circumstances and everything surrounding it will look like as well. So that's a huge preparation, and that's a huge leap in their lifestyle in terms of what it's like for them to have that happen to them. But that could happen to anybody. Another classic example is stairs. It's like the amount of people that come to me in the older age group, myself and upwards, I just can't manage the stairs anymore. My legs have had it. It's like, and for me personally, I look at my mother and father and I think, God, if you fall down the stairs, it's like you're probably never coming back out of hospital. And so I mean, these are all the practicalities and the realities of the situation that you've got to think about when you get to certain stages in your life. about what you should be doing next. And this is why it's important to invite the right estate agents into your home.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, we talk about knowing local sold boards and research online to narrow down the stages you want to invite. But it's not just about who sells the most houses in your area. For me, I think it's personally who achieves the highest value over the home report value. Because everybody's going to come in at the same home report more than likely. All the home reports are more or less the same. You know, it's the same surveyors that are doing everything. It's the same comparables who are doing everything. So who's the estate agent that's actually achieving significantly more over the home report value right now than every other estate agent? And I mean significantly, like for example, one year we measured, everybody else was getting 8%, we were getting 14%. So every £100,000 on a person's house, we were effectively on average achieving £6,000 more. So a £400,000 house would actually achieve 24,000 on average more. We would over another agent. And these are just facts, but it's important facts, because if I said to you, Perry, I'll take 24,000 out of your pocket right now.
No, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. No, you
exactly.
There's no way. It's like, but often a lot of sellers actually don't get that. They completely focus on a fee, and they completely focus on saying, look, you know, oh, that's a few £100 more than I was expecting to pay. And it's like, you're talking about thousands at the end in comparison to a few hundred more. But remember this as well, as a seller, you're only paying a few £100 more if you get the price you want.
Yeah.
You only pay an estate agent for what, if you accept the offer you want. So where's this illusion that you're going to be paying somebody more money and in actual fact achieving the same result as another estate agent would achieve? There's not a connection made. It's like one of these loops, but it's not actually joined. People they get to that stage and they think to themselves, oh, it's going to cost a lot more to do that with them. It's like, no, it's not going to cost a lot more. For most estate agents, I would say, it's an investment in their services to make sure you get the right result. That's really what it's down to.
And that's vital. And what you're saying there really does make a difference. And it is about doing your homework before you pick an agent. But actually also, you've got to challenge that agent too. And that agent has got to demonstrate to you how they do it differently. Because actually, we're not all the same. Yes, it's fundamentally it's selling houses, but it's not all the same. You know, you need to look at the photography. You need to look at the engagement with regards to the description. You need to look at the videography. You know, is it really promoting everything, not just the building? Is it promoting the lifestyles? Is it promoting the area? What is their social media like? Because we both know, Jim, 80% of what happens on these now. So, you know, if your agent hasn't got a really good social media strategy, how is your property going to get seen? How do you maximize your market opportunity?
I think that's really important. I've heard recently from some new estate agents that popped up. You know, you have the self-employed models that are coming up, and it's like they're running their own business within our organisation. And I find it quite interesting because they go, we're available at weekends and at nights. So what? Everybody else is as well. Oh, we list on all these different websites. So what? Everybody else does as well.
Yeah.
Oh, we do, you know, it's these typical things. It's like they're just saying what everybody else can copy. There has to be some sort of uniqueness in the agent that you would choose. It's something that they're doing, or quite a lot of things that they're doing, it can't be replicated by someone else. It is actually getting the result that you're wanting to achieve. That's the fundamental difference in where your choice should be. Is that agent doing something which is unique to them? What is the benefits of what they're doing? Because what I talked about originally was just features. Yeah, we're open till 9 o'clock. We're open till 5 o'clock. You know, whatever it is, I could answer the phone anytime. Okay, so everybody else can do that. There's no USP, unique selling point in that. Anybody else can replicate that. So what is it that you've got? It's proprietary. In other words, unique to you that no one else can replicate. That's what you should be asking that agent.
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. And it takes us right back to the actual opening of today's show. And it is about getting ahead of the game. So how do you get ahead of everyone else?
Yeah.
That's what you need, isn't it? So that's important. I think, like you say, out of hours agents talk about, you know, what they can do and what they can't do. But I think for yourself, it's really important to make a list of pros and cons, including how each of them leave you feeling, because it's not just, as you say, about the features and benefits, but actually, did you engage? Did you connect with that person? Because you're going to have a long relationship with this person potentially for 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
So how did you connect with them? Can you see it working? Can you see a relationship? Listen to their story. Can they back it up? So again, are they evidencing to you how they're getting those price uplifts, what their strategy is, how, yes, it's all very well saying we do this, but how did they achieve it? And is it believable, I guess, is really the thing, isn't it?
I've often walked in and shown people the comparables about, you know, this is what we've got around the corner, which is similar to your house, which is sold a month ago. And they're saying, it's like, wow, I've never seen another agent do things like that. I'm thinking, that's just normal practice. I said, no. And then I've said to them, so what did the other agents say? Because now and again, believe it or not, now and again, people actually do call out other people.
Yeah.
when I'm there, and it's like, really? Should just be me.
Do you not get what I'm doing?
However, there is other ones, and I say, so how did they come at the valuation they had? Because remember, it's not a competition. Often you'll walk in, and now and again you'll ask a seller and say, look, you know, what did the other agent value the house at? And they, oh well, that's for me to know. You tell me first, and we'll see if you're about the same figure. And I'm like, this isn't a competition. I'm here to help you in your journey. If you choose other person, fair enough. But I'm asking you that question because it helps me manage your expectations. Because the other agent could have said it's worth £500,000, when in actual fact I've got all the comparables that shows it's worth £350,000. Now, as soon as I say, oh, it's 350,000, and you've got $500,000 in your mind, boom, shutters come down. You're not listening to anything else I've got to say.
Yeah.
Even though I'm right, that's the key here. And that's why it's important that you answer the question that the agent asks you. You know, if they say, you know, what's the valuations of their agents, where they're round about, it's like, oh, we're round about this and round about that. And then I usually say to people, it's like, look, I've got it written down here on a bit of paper anyway. So I will discuss it with you after this. And most people go, yeah, okay, then it's X amount. And I went, yeah, okay, that's about what we've got. And this is where it's borne out by. However, did they actually show you where this was all borne out and how this valuation came about? No. Nothing. No. So effectively, it's almost like they're just plucking a figure out the air.
Yeah. I get mixed responses to that in regards to how did the agents present themselves. I get either they didn't present anything, or actually, yeah, they gave me loads of comparables, but none of them were like my house. I don't even know why they were showing me them. So it didn't compare. It didn't compare to me. It didn't help me understand. Yeah. So it is about that.
There's also the unique ones that come up, the once in a blue moon. It's like there's no another property like this in the area because they're few and far between. They're maybe in a countryside location, or they're maybe one of the traditional seaside villages like Pitt and Weem and Anstra and that, and where it's the traditional stone built from hundreds of years ago. So it's difficult to actually quantify and actually value that because they were all unique at that time.
Yeah.
So then it's putting a value on that, and that's where expertise lies, because that difference, maybe an extra £5,000 or £10,000, because you've got the right figure and the surveyor is convinced that you've got the right figure because you show them the comparables, could make the difference between you getting all your fees paid and you having to pay them yourself. You know, that's the difference, the extra £5,000 or £10,000 that could be added on because of that, because you've got the numbers right, because it's based on facts. It's not just an opinion. And often you'll get a seller, it could mortgage up to the value of the home report, which is the only amount that the bank will lend on. They won't lend on anything more than that. So everything else has to come out the actual buyer's pocket. So therefore, it's important to get the home report right in the beginning. And in all honesty, it's important to get the home report as high as possible within reason, because it obviously gives you a good start. And I'm a big fan of, let's shoot for the stars, and hey, if it doesn't work, we'll catch the moon on the way down.
Yeah.
Whereas you can imagine the amount of effort you're going to have to go to try and hit the moon, and then try and hit the stars if you're doing two propulsions. Whereas if you do one and glide down from there, that's an easy gig for to do it. So I think there's less stress involved in that, but it's a harder one to try and push something up as let it come down.
I agree completely. And I think that's why it's really important that you engage with that agent. So, you know, we have actually done other shows on this and podcasts on this before, and there will be some links in this show as well. You know, we had a show that we did called You and Your Estate Agent. So by all means, feel free to nip in and read that article, watch the video, whatever way you kind of want to get yourself educated, but it's full of good tips on how you can achieve that as well. I think the other important thing as well is engaging with your agent. The next step after that is getting the house prepared for sale, isn't it?
Yeah. So, basically, as soon as you've made that decision, it's time to get the spring into action around and for you to present it to your buyers. So so we're going to talk about this, but in no particular order. But let me assure you straight away, for goodness sake, if you're a seller out there, do not run onto social media and share your own personal photographs of your house and say, because I've seen it, oh, I'm going to be putting my house in the market soon if anybody's interested. And you've shown all the photographs of your own house. You've taken them all yourself. They're not exactly brilliant because you're no professional photographer. And therefore, you blow everybody else out the water locally. And what I mean is, they all say when it comes to the market, oh, I've seen that. She or he, shared it on, about 2 or 3 weeks ago anyway, on the social media channels. I wasn't really interested in it at that time. And yet, if they'd actually taken the time to look at it when it was launched, it's like, it would be a completely different property from what they actually saw initially. So don't steal your estate agent's thunder. That's really important.
Yeah.
That's the one best advice I can give you. Do not go to social media and say, I'm going to be putting my house in the market if anybody's interested. Just wait and bide your time. And then when the estate agent's produced everything and it's all in place and ready to go, patience is the word here, then you share their post. Now, why do you share their post and not Zoopla and Rightmove? Why do you not share these posts? Because if you share the estate agent's post, well, this is just us personally. I don't think anybody else understands what I'm just about to talk about. If you share their post, they're able to collect that data from their website, therefore retarget people on social media and get back in front of them. That's what the big corporations like Samsung and Sony and Apple and all these organizations do. That's why when you're at a certain age, like me, all of a sudden you mention something about pensions, then every single pension advert appears on social media.
Yeah.
That's called retargeting technology. Now that's that's used by all the huge organizations, and we use the similar category and information. That's why it's important I tell everybody, share our post from our website. If you share Rightmoves or share Zooplas, we can't capture any data from that at all.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. So as soon as you decided, here's another one. Decluttering is a really good one to do. Now we've got a vlog on here about decluttering. Okay. And it goes right into who would have thought we'd be able to talk about decluttering for an hour?
Oh, quite easily. And I remember actually, Jim, when we did that show, it was when I was downsizing and decluttering. So we had lots to talk about there, but it's really vital. And this is going back to the previous conversation there as well about getting yourself ready and why you shouldn't wait for the agent. When your agent comes out, your agent will actually be able to tell you what you should be doing to the house. Yeah. And if decluttering is one of those things, I've been out to a property recently. He's like, right, we need to go now. And I was like, whoa, hang on. Do you want me to be honest? Do you want me to sugarcoat it or just give you it straight? And they're like, no, what do I need to do, Perrie? He's like, you seriously need to declutter. We need to give the property a deep clean. That's going to take you a good few weeks. Yeah. And they've maybe not even realised that because they're thinking we can just go. But it's like you said, it's that first impression, Jim. You need the house to look at its best. So give yourself enough time to do that preparatory work.
Now, when we talk about that, though, we don't talk about being to the point of having a show home.
No.
For some people, and I'm going to say it, you can't make a salt purse out of sow's ear. That's the reality. It's honestly, there's some people got buy-to-let properties, and they've obviously the tenants moved out. It's known the best state possible. They don't have the money to refurb it, therefore they come to us. So don't be too concerned. We can give you the right advice in order to how to do that. But some people have absolutely pristine properties ready to go, but they're still like, I need to declutter and I need to do this. And I'm like, no, it's for goodness sake. It's like a show home as it is.
Yeah.
Just leave it. Don't. We're ready to go. Seriously. Yes, we are ready to go. Let's go. And it's like, oh well, I'll take all the photographs of all the pictures off the walls. No, because you're just going to show all the marks from where the pictures were before.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'll paint the hall or I'll paint this, and it's like, well, no, because you're going to highlight the fact that maybe the skirtings and the ceilings now needing done, and the facings and the doors, because you've just done all that. So it has to be in keeping with what's there just now. So it's that experience we have. It will make you understand. And again, we've got another one here called Love at First Sight. For your property, another one which has a vlog and a blog on it and a podcast and an article. You can read these articles in 4 minutes to give you the best advice on how to help buyers fall in love with your home, like moving furniture around the rooms to make it feel bigger and adding a few styling, that's your thing, Perry, styling touches. Yeah, you can see that smile on your face straight away.
But it's vital. And actually, it's like you said, Jim, it doesn't need to be expensive either. It's easy to do. And it can be simple things. You know, we've gone into rooms where even just the way the sofas are laid out, it's boxing the room off. So move them to side by side. It makes the room look bigger. Take that out, put this in. You know, it's like putting a cushion down, take a cabinet out, put that table away. There's little things that you can do, or bring some more light into a room, move that lamp into this corner, you know, put a doorway here. The classic one was in
the bay windows, and sometimes
windows.
the double doors going to the dining room have got furniture in front of them, so it makes it impossible to see that natural flow into that room.
Yeah.
And yet it's only because at that time it was convenient for them to have it ergonomically laid out for their purpose. However, it's easy to then change it for another purpose and repurpose the room in a different way in order to make that line of sight proper, isn't it?
100%. Remember the property we had in Tolbooth Wine, Jim? You used to walk in right into the front door and it took you into the hallway, and then straight had the beautiful utility room. But before you got to the utility, there was that log. It was a log store area, and it just looked busy, and they had a curtain across it rather than a door. And I was like, you know what would be brilliant here is like a stable door, you know, the top and shut. And honestly, they created that image and took on board that feedback. Didn't cost them a lot of money. And this is a different example, of course, but actually when you went in there, the wow factor of that top part being open, the bottom being closed, the log store up in the cupboards, and that beautiful big room, what a difference it made. And again, it's that we talked about earlier, it's that first impression. It's like you've just walked in the home, what do you see?
It's also things like the water stains, squeaky hinges, leaky taps. I've even often heard people say when we're doing video walkthroughs, it's like, oh, I could hear the squeaky floor. I wouldn't be able to live with that. And I'm like, a screw into the joist, that's it. That sorts that problem. It's as simple as that. But just for someone hearing that makes a fundamental difference. And it's in the leaky taps, the wobbly door handles, the scuff paint. You need to address these things to make your home look cherished and cared for.
Yeah, absolutely. You want it to feel fresh and inviting as well. And it can be simple things, as you say, like just giving it a good clean. If you don't want to do it, you can always get someone in to do it. You know, there's professionals out there that can help you if you've got a busy lifestyle. And absolutely, it will be worth whatever they're charging you, because you'll get that money back tenfold.
Here's one of the things that a lot of people come up with, is I've not got anybody I can call on to do that. But we have a property management division that we've managed for years as letting agents. So we have all these people ready available who can help out. You know, the contract cleaners for cleaning all the houses and doing either the first clean or the final clean. We also have the people that can move furniture at the end of the process. We also have the people that obviously does all the legal work, people that do the mortgage work. There's not an area we've never crossed before that we could refer someone to the right services in order to help them through their journey. Most of the time, I believe, well, I know most of the time it's the fear, it's the false expectations appearing real. It's the thousands of conversations people have in their heads about how this could go wrong, when it could go wrong, what possibility it could go wrong, and yet only one scenario could ever actually happen. And it's the stress that they put themselves under in order when they go through that process. So I think that's the job of an estate agent, to make that process so easy. You know, I was coming back there, by the way.
No,
I was wandering off. I was coming back to it. Yes, it was going full circle. I think it's making that process so easy for someone as a seller and possibly even as a buyer. In all honesty, because we do advise buyers on occasions because they're obviously buying their house, so it makes it easier for them. We make it easy for them to buy, put it that way. Make it really easy for them to buy. They really can't say no. So therefore, that's all the objections handled and the property sold. And I think that's what shows and demonstrates the skill of an experienced estate agent. It's not just putting on the market and going, I've got this one sold in 3 days. And it's like, okay then, you got it sold in 3 days, but what are you doing all the rest? How are you handling them? Because not everything sells in 3 days. Not everything sells on social media. Not everything sells with, in a record time. Not everything sells over the home report value. So what is it you do outside of that on your day-to-day processes and systems.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree, and I think it makes a fundamental difference to the person and how they prepare that home to get it sold. So they do need to have that good advice. Once you've given them that advice as well, the next thing really is getting the photographer on board, isn't it? So your photography is a big thing. Homes look best in the summer, we know that, because you've got all that lovely natural light coming in. But actually, preparing for autumn I quite like as well, because you've got all of different colours and you can still get nice time to do it. But use this time of year to your advantage would be my thing. Get your photos taken now to capture sunlight. I've just explained that example we did earlier for someone who's listening at the end of September. You know, you want that light streaming through the windows, you want the garden that's still in bloom, you want it to look nice. But I'm not saying that you have like a summer garden promoting it at Christmas, because people will know that that's not right. You know, you have to be careful, don't you?
It has to be in season, doesn't it? Or it'll just look odd. And then it'll highlight the fact that some people might actually think, has this been on before? Because it's got photographs from summertime. Even though it's actually been taken in summer. So, you know, again, we get classics like, I've had it as a holiday home for a long time. I've got perfect photographs of the house. And then they send over photographs, and it's photographs of the towels and the beds. And it's like, I'm not selling the bed, I'm selling the house. You know, your photographs are for a different market than what we are. We're wanting somebody to buy it, not rent it or come to it for a holiday. So it's different, and it has to be in season as well. As well as videography. I mean, photographs are really good. I often get the question about, the clouds are now. That's all right. We'll just replace that with blue sky.
It can be done.
We replace it with blue skies because you're not always going to get that, are you? You're not always going to get that, so you're never going to be able to coincide that at the right time. And that's not a misdescription or anything, because the skies are blue at some point in time in that day or that week. So that's easy enough to do, but there is certain things that you've got to make sure you get the right videography in that. I tell you what as well is the great thing is about what we're doing is we're using ultra high definition recording. So when we use ultra high definition recording, we can actually adjust white balance in a room to the natural eye. Because often when you walk in with a photographer will walk in and the white balance is completely out because there's a lot of sunshine coming in the window, but there's not natural light in the room. Therefore, it puts the room darker than it should be if you were looking at it with the naked eye. And that's what I love about what we're doing in terms of video, in terms of the high definition ultra cameras. So we can actually get that right back to the natural eye vision in terms of what people will see, and the color depth as well is quite important. Because you say the colours count. I mean, if you just look at it, I've often seen it. You know, well, I've not often seen it. Now and again, you get a horrendous one. It's listed by someone else, and it's like you look at the photographs and think, "Oh my God, what is that person sleeping in the bed for?" It's like, well, the tenant wouldn't move, so I took the photograph. Leave the photograph out.
Yeah.
You don't need to leave it in with the person in it. And often I've got a funny feeling that they actually think, oh, we'll get attention and people might buy it. No, you'll get the wrong attention for the wrong reason.
Negative attention. Yeah, absolutely.
And
we had that recently.
And it's going to damage what you do, and it's going to damage your brand. It's like, how crazy could you get?
We had that recently actually with a client, and they were saying, you haven't put a photo of the study room in. I said, when I sent it to the client for a sign off, because obviously the client has got to sign everything off. So we sent the photos over, and she was like, oh, you haven't put the study room in. I says, no, we deliberately didn't do that. Here's the study room. Okay. Yeah, don't put the study room photo in because it was just full of junk.
A massive books and stuff like that. And it's like, that doesn't inspire me to buy this property at all.
No.
Now, the study room probably utilised as a study room, but it probably was a bedroom before, more than likely.
Yeah.
So we're describing it as a bedroom, but it's currently utilised as a study room. We don't need to take a photograph of everything that's in there if it doesn't look right. But everybody will know the dimensions. They know a bedroom's a bedroom. And if all that stuff's coming out of that room anyway, so the need to show that photograph is maybe not the right action to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is important. But as you say, so it's all about speaking. Again, you've got to understand the property that you're marketing, because again, do you discuss with your client when you're in the garden, when does the sun shine? Is it here in the morning? Is it here in the afternoon? So again, you can plan around that. So, you know, we need to talk about that so that we can plan it, so we can understand to get the maximum effect from the photographs, but also from the videography stuff that we do.
It's the first thing I do. It's the first thing I do when I go around to a property, Perry. When we're out the back garden, I immediately look at the time of day I think people maybe think, I've never had anybody feel offended that they think this guy's wanting to leave because he's looking at his watch. It's like I look at my watch and I think, okay, how close am I to 12 o'clock midday? Because that's south. And then I gauge the sun based on it, and I go, okay, that's about south there. So the sun's going to come up over here, and it's going to go down over here, east and west. And then it gives me a good idea about what time of day I should be kind of filming about, in order to not cast too much shadows on either the front or the back of the building.
Absolutely. You want to capture, as we said earlier, all that colour as well. I think as well as capturing the right colour schemes, it's about capturing the right type of photo as well. So, you know, your photographer should be taking a bit of a mixed set of photography. So looking at something that's wide, something that's close up, something that's medium, something that's distance. You know, we often get maybe 50 photographs and we choose maybe between 12 and 15.
Yeah.
So it's about knowing that.
Especially in Victorian properties. Where you've got the original cornices, the original ceiling roses, you've got some stained glass windows. For example, look at Church Street in Buckhaven. You know, look at that one. It's a beautiful place. I mean, you know, it's a huge place. It's a huge plot. It's like, wow. If I had a family that was growing up, I was like, God, I would really seriously consider moving to there, because it's just you could have that. You could be in that garden and be anywhere.
Absolutely.
You don't actually realise it could be it could be anywhere because of that, because it's all enclosed and it's all nice and private. So I think you're absolutely right. It's all about the details, size of the rooms, different definitions in the photographs, especially video as well, and the talk-ups and why. Again, when I come back to saying about, you know, we talk about video quite a lot, and we don't actually write a lot down in our blogs and vlogs on these, but we talk about it in the shows and the podcasts about how important video is. Because somebody further afield will often pay the most money because they are further afield and they're in a city which actually is a lot more money for a property to buy. For example, London is 550,000 is the average price.
Commands higher prices.
Fife's 174. It's like a Fife is a third of the average price of London. So if you can attract somebody from London and they look at the size of your house for 550,000 and they go, I can get that, and yet in London I can get a 2-bedroom flat. But there's no driving reason for them to live in London anymore because they can work remotely. And the only reason that they lived there was for convenience. So if they can work remotely, why would they want to live in London permanently from now on and have that huge cost and not all that what sort of less relaxing atmosphere? So if you can live out in the country or the seaside or you know, the golf course or anything like that, why would you want to live in the city anymore? So that's where you can attract the best buyers. I'm gobsmacked that we're getting about 8,000 people from London every single month on our website. It's like, wow, really? It's like, that's a lot when you think about it. That's what, 72,000 or something? 96,000 a year. That's just about 100,000 a year.
This week alone, Jim, as well as local people in Edinburgh, Glasgow, this week for viewings, we've had people coming in from Northern Ireland, we've had someone from London, and we've had someone from France just this week alone come to view houses here. Because they're getting it seen. So I think the point that you were making there is that with the video work that we do, you're getting a wider audience, and that's why that's really important.
It's allowing them to make better choices. Because they're more than likely, usually a lot of people like that are cash rich, time poor. If they're time poor, the last thing they want to do is scroll through photographs, understand what it actually means to them, try and find out and research what the area is all about, work out the dimensions of the room and how the perspective, work out what else is in the room in comparison to what they've not been told, you know, and what the potential is as well. And then that's why I view a video is so, or a talk-up video, a proper walkthrough talk-up television format video is probably vital to people like that. But if that's the person that's going to be the most money, then that's the market you've got to go for. After all, you're not there to give away your house for free. No. Or at a discount. You're out there to maximise the value of your house as much as possible in order to help you have better choices when you move on to the next place. Absolutely.
So I think keeping your home tidy as well and looking as much as you can, like the videos and photographs, is a big thing as well, isn't it? I know we say to people, you know, it's nice. And again, there's top tips that we've done shows on before about how you can get viewing ready. So try to keep the property looking the best way that you can. You want to have the people that come in and thinking this is exactly like the video, or it's exactly like the photographs, or versus, oh, this doesn't look anything like it, because that's a real negative thing for people as well. You want them to feel that it's the same experience that they're having when they finally come in, because 9 times out of 10, our buyers, because of the way that we market, by the time they're actually walking over the doorstep, they're about 90% already into the property anyway, and they really just want to find out, how does it feel? Does my furniture fit? Does the garden work for me? Does the space work? They're already invested, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I think that is critical to get them to that next stage and qualify them. And that's another way of qualifying people, to get quality rather than quantity through the door. You know, somebody that's actually in a position to do something, somebody that's ready to do something. I think that's the most important thing. We've got one here, you know, how to give your home an unfair advantage over everybody else's photography secrets. Again, another vlog in this post, so you can click on that and just actually click through to it. And it gives you more insight into the podcast, into the article as well, about just these photography secrets that people don't know what happens, but it's all about emotion. It drives us. And if a photograph can be so emotive, or a video can be so emotive, to push a person to get to an inquiry, because remember, it's all about getting somebody to inquire. It's not about getting somebody to buy on the website. It's actually getting them to inquire. In other words, lift the phone, send an email, send a message, WhatsApp you, you know, anything like that. It's to get them to inquire. That's the purpose of a website. Because if they inquire, they're then agreeing that the price point is probably right, and then the property that they're actually looking at is probably right as well for them. So that's the qualification process the websites should be doing for you, and social media should be doing for you as well. It's a qualification thing to get somebody to lift the phone, to get them to the next steps. Once you get to the next steps, this is all about taking them around the property, and that's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, totally different.
That's when it's still negotiation. That's about understanding the buyer that's walking through the door, and understanding what their needs are, and actually showing them how they can get that. Because if you can show somebody how they can get it, they can't say no. So what do you want? Oh, I want this. Okay, well, this is it here. You can't really say no to that, because I've just shown you. You've agreed with the price point. You've agreed with the location, because you know where it is. You've agreed with the size of the house. So, and you've agreed with everything else. So where's the offer? And that's what's key in that process. Next thing that comes out of that, because then we could assume that we've got an accepted offer now. Legal process. How do we speed that up?
That's the vital thing. And actually, so many people leave it to the last minute, and you should never do that. So while your agent's getting your photos and your descriptions put together, and you're getting ready for your launch, you really should be speeding up your legal process by getting in touch with your lawyer. You absolutely need your conveyancing solicitor on board. They need to understand what you're doing, when you're planning to do it, how quickly you need to do it, so that they can prepare all the paperwork and get you ready for sale, basically, and ready to accept that offer. If there's nothing worse, and we sometimes get this, very rarely because of how our system works, but we sometimes get it, especially if it's people maybe that live out of area, who we send the accepted offer to, and they go, hang on, they're selling their house. They didn't know they were selling the house. So, you know, that can really delay things by a great deal, because conveyancing 9 times out of 10 is the longest part of the process, Jim, isn't it?
Yeah, when I first started, way back, yeah, I'm not going to say when, it was a long time ago. So when I first started, that was one of the things identified as one of the key processes which could actually be made more efficient, was the solicitors. That as soon as I spoke to them about the conveyancing process, they said, the sooner you can, it was Tom McCaskill and Leading actually. As soon as you can tell me the property is going on the market, is the best point. You know, as soon as it goes on the market, you can tell me, because I can get the titles ordered up. I can get them inspected to make sure there's no anomalies in the titles. And in terms of the size of the land, or what's on offer, or what we're describing, is it the same as what the title says? Because often things like that, could throw a spanner in the works. And I'll give you an example of this. I had a flat myself, actually. I was selling. It was through another agent at the time, because I wasn't in a stage at that time. And so it was many years ago, as you probably understand. And when we got to the process of, right, it's sold, the solicitor then came to me and says, all right, okay, well, we're not going to be meeting that deadline, because apparently I've looked at what you've got and what the title says. And it says, actually, next door has half of your bedroom on their title. What? Aye, yeah, definitely. You don't have it, but next door does. So your title doesn't show that they've got half of your bedroom, but their title shows that you've got half of your bedroom. So we're going to have to resolve that situation first. And the land registry is notorious for delays, and it's just like, oh, we can be bothered. We'll get round to it.
There's no priority.
Honestly, that's what they're like. I know a friend that actually worked in there in a pretty high position in the land registry, and he said he's now away because he says he couldn't believe the how inefficient the place was, and how they were so against actually changing. So against changing the whole system, against digitization, against making things more efficient to get things done quicker. They were completely against doing that. And that's what frustrated him the most, and that's why he just said, to hell with it, I'll just retire early. I can't be bothered with it. So that's the sort of thing that you've got to make sure is hard. Now, I do get a lot of people saying to me, "Oh, I've got the title deeds," or my last solicitor's got your title deeds. They've no. Your title deeds are no longer really that relevant anymore, because they are all on the land registry. It's very, very rare that you actually have any title deeds not on the land registry now, because of this. When I talked about the story about my friend actually digitization, that's about 15 years ago. So they're now most titles are actually on the land registry, so anybody can download them. You can even download them yourself for £3. You can just get a copy of them, and it can tell you straight away. But your solicitor will do that for you.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to get that information. So you don't need to go back to someone else and say, have you got my old deeds? Because they're just old deeds. And more than likely, most people actually get the old deeds sent to them because solicitors don't want to hold on to them anymore because it costs them money to do it. You remember, they've got to store all that stuff. And yet they're not charging you. They're not charging you a penny for it. So they don't want to hold all that stuff anymore. So they just hand it back to you. And that's why it's all digitized now, for that reason. So solicitor, mortgage lender, get them in place as well. You need to make sure you're in a position to proceed just as much as anyone else. Gather to get any appliance warranties. That's why the home report's so great when you come to the property questionnaire. Property questionnaire goes through if you've got any warranties on the windows, if you've got any warranties for any damp works or associated woodworm treatment works, especially in older houses. If your house is about 50 or 60 or 70 years old or more, you're definitely going to have a woodworm thing. It's maybe not active, but it's going to get mentioned in your home report.
Definitely.
It's going to say there's evidence of wood borer infestation. We do not believe it's active. So it's inactive. But please make sure applicable warranties are in place.
Yeah.
Or in guarantees. So
always
that comes up every single time for older properties. And it can scare quite a lot of buyers off when they see that qualification on the report. But it'll be there. It's like having a hole in your tooth and it maybe never ever repairs. It's always going to be there, but it's never going to get any worse.
Yeah. I think it's important for the damp part and the infestation part for sure. But actually what we often see again is a lot of the properties in this area have been extended or changed in some shape or form. So again, if you've made those types of improvements, did you get planning permission? Did you need planning permission? Did you get a building certificate of completion? Did you not? How did that impact things? Many times people don't get any of that in place.
I've got a catch all for this. It was like that when I bought it. Now, I typically say that to a lot of people, but it's like they've had it for 30 years and they made the changes 30 years ago, because it is really just a letter of comfort, but it can slow down the process. So, it's like that when I bought it. Nobody's going to know any different. It's like nobody's going to. How on earth are you going to be able to go back unless you've knocked down a wall or changed the size of a room or opened something up? Because the title plan shows things like that potentially sometimes. But if it's simple things, I don't know, maybe putting an ensuite into your bedroom, but it's done properly. It's done properly. You've had it for 30 years. It's like you can't get a letter of comfort. We can't point in the right direction to get people like that. But sometimes it can be worth just saying it was like that when I bought it. It's like, yeah, it was there when I bought it. Prove otherwise. You can't.
You can, but that can take time.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the problem.
So, but recent stuff that you've done, yeah, definitely. You're never gonna get away with that. You're gonna have to make sure you've got the right planning permission for improvements. I do know somebody in Creole that actually converted the whole upstairs of their house. They spent an absolute fortune. and they never even got any sign-offs or planning permission or anything for it. And subsequently, they tried to get it retrospectively, and it was almost impossible. I'm not even sure if they actually got it from then. You maybe know the person I'm talking about. But that's effectively what happened. I think he spent the best part of 100,000 doing this, putting it upstairs.
Yeah.
Never ever get that back, because you've just basically you've got no authority to do it or anything like that. If you highlight the local authority, they might end up coming back and saying, well, it's been done wrong. So you'll need to change it, or you need to poke holes in ceilings to make sure you've got the proper insulation. You need to take up floors to make sure you've got the proper support in the joists. That's another thing as well. A lot of people actually talk about this, and I had it recently on one of the houses I was at. I have said to the person that took them round, that says, now, if you're thinking about extending up into that attic, you'll probably have to strengthen the floor, because these joists they won't support that huge amount of weight that's going to go up here. So there will be one of these, but that'll be all in your building warrant. So when you get a building warrant, you're going to have to make sure a structural engineer actually signs it off, and that's one of the criteria to make sure that's all strengthened properly by what you're putting up there. So see how this can manifest itself and build in a bigger picture, and not in every occasion, but in some occasions. And see how what I say to people is get somebody to advise you earlier, rather than leaving it to the last minute of I've put an offer on another house and it's been accepted. I'd love to get my house sold.
Really important to get prepared.
One is new builds, planning permission improvements, certificates for completion, letters of comfort, stuff like that. Instruct a solicitor, ask them to send you proper information forms you need to complete when selling, that covers things like the boundaries, utilities, and maintenance. I mean, this isn't the world's most interesting task.
No.
But if you use this information at the start of getting your home on the market, you'll shave weeks off your timeline and clear the path for a smoother move overall. After all, why would you want to make it as stressful for you as possible, when in actual fact it could be a lot easier if you just listen to your estate agent that's advising you? You can tell I've been through this before, eh?
Just a couple of times. It's really vital, though.
I can feel the pain just coming out my pores now, the stress.
The great thing is, Jim, see, when we're done, you can go lie on the beach and forget all about it.
But you know I probably won't.
I know that you won't, absolutely. It'll be bothering you and you'll go with it. But it really is important, because it's not just about you and you being ready, but if you're in a chain as well, then suddenly you're stretching that pain through every single part of that chain. And you might actually lose your dream home because you weren't ready for selling yours. So really important. Think about where you're going as well. So at the beginning of your journey, the most exciting part of moving is deciding where to, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's new beginnings. They're exciting.
You often get people that say, I'm not really sure where I'm going. So I don't want to put my house in the market now. And I'm like, no, that's not what you should be doing. You should be putting your house in the market now, getting somebody to agree to a flexible entry date, to a non-refundable deposit, to concluded missives, to make sure you're in a perfect position so you know your budget for your next property. But you could have all the time in the world, more or less, to move for when you want to move. And that could be up to a year, because we've had that a couple of times where somebody's actually agreed to a year. The people have actually brought the date forward because they have found the perfect place to move to. And it's only been 6 months overall for everybody involved. But it's worked. And it's just, again, we'll come back to saying, even though you've not got your plan set in concrete, talk to an estate agent, because you don't know what you don't know. Is one of the phrases. So it's a good estate agent will be able to tell you what you need to know, and you'll be able to decide based on the facts. But also, if they're a really good estate agent, they'll be able to manage your circumstances. They'll be able to, which is just as important as the price. You know, because the circumstances are most important. Because I hear it a lot when people come on. Now, it's one of my biggest bugbears. Is when people come onto local community pages and they go, oh, I need a 2-bedroom house to move to because I've got my house sold and under offer. It's like, what did you not think about and plan? Did you not have a discussion with your estate agent about what the next steps are going to be? Did you not have the discussion about having an open-ended entry date to somebody to agree to that? To not leave yourself under pressure to a point where it's like almost you're about to say, I'm going to be homeless.
The thing is, though, Jim, you're right, but actually, not all estate agents are the same, as we keep saying. I was at a client last week and there was agent out before me. We've got to the end of the conversation. She said, oh gosh, I feel so much more happier after speaking with you. That's taken a weight off my shoulders. And I said, well, what part of it what part of that has helped you? And she said, well, the agent that I had out before basically said that we didn't have timelines to be flexible, that once I decided I was selling and I got an offer, then I need to be prepared to move out within 6 weeks. And she says that just put me into panic.
Wanting the fee.
And it just totally panicked me.
Yeah, that sounds like somebody that's driven by the money rather than actually the person's best interests at heart, isn't it?
100%. So I did the exact conversation that we've just had there about what do you need. We make sure that your buyer understands where you're at, what your journey's on, that they will need to wait, that they'll need to be flexible. And she was very comfortable with that after that conversation. Yeah. But you're right in saying ask your agent, but sometimes a second opinion is a good thing to get as well.
Yeah, possibly, unless it's second to my opinion.
Well, that's true. Depends who you ask in the first place.
When it counts.
Depends who you asked first, I guess. But yeah, think about where you're going in the journey. Let's get back to that. It is really
important. To get a second opinion. I tell you what, ask Perry. That's what I'll say in future. I need to get a second opinion. Get Perry out to give you a second opinion.
That's funny. But no, it's true. You know, you're starting that journey. That's the exciting part of the journey, and where you're going to go is part of that decision factor, isn't it? But not just about location. Are you going to find a home that brings everything that you're wanting and hoping for? Where can you find it? How quickly can you find it, or how not so quickly, depending on what your plan is. But you need to make sure that you do it and it makes you happy and you get the end result that you want. And sometimes actually that can change depending on what agent you're using, because the outcome of what they get, as you said earlier, Jim, what price did they get for selling theirs actually might change what they then do next, mightn't it?
Yeah, but equally as well, I remember the story. Do you remember Woolworths? Woolworths was always great. You would always go back to Woolworths because Woolworths identified a wee trick in their marketing. When you went into Woolworths and asked for a certain product, Woolworths always used to say to you, well, we've not got it, but John Menzies up the street has got it. They went, wow, who do you think you're going to go to next time to buy a product? You're going to go to Woolworths again, because you know damn fine if Woolworths haven't got it, they'll tell you where to go to get it. And for that's a similar sort of vein that we would operate, because it's like, you know, your next steps in the process is to, obviously, as you said, is to find your next house and what you want to do and what your budget is and all the rest of it. But, you know, I'm not going to be shy in actually saying, you know, they've got a property on in St Andrews that you're looking for. That other agent's got a property on East Newton you're looking for. That other agent's got one in Leiden you're looking for, or Glenoffice or Cody or Cooper, or wherever it is they're looking for. I'm not going to be shy in coming forward and actually saying that someone else has got a property for sale. It might interest you.
Yeah,
I'm not bothered who I'm selling, you know, who they're buying a property from. But the most important person in the process is the actual seller and the buyer. It's like, you know, this is the most important. It's not about, let's just say we get paid as a natural byproduct of doing a good job for both parties. When we fully represent the seller, because they contract us to do it, but they are a buyer as well, and we'll help them through that journey overall. So I think it's about helping the seller become a buyer and in that process, and helping them find their next property. Hence the reason why part of the whole process when I go around to see someone on a market appraisal to look at their house is, well, where do you want to go next? What type of property are you looking for? What budget have you got to spend? You know, how are you going to finance it? Is it going to be through a mortgage? Is it going to be a cash purchase? You know, it's going to be a cash purchase. We're wanting to get all the money out of this property. Okay, so what you got on this property in terms of mortgage just now? Oh, well, that's my mortgage. And so here's the valuation. So if we sell it for that, this is what's going to be left. That's not going to suit your budget. That's not going to work. So where does that leave you now? These are things that have to be discussed at the beginning, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. So that helps you.
Like when people get to the end and go, oh, I never even thought about that. I'm going to have to organize this now. No. No, do it in the beginning. Get yourself prepared for this. But again, this is all about knowledge and expertise and taking advice based on facts rather than what you think your opinion might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really important. That identifies what and where, really. And the where part of it as well, again, it's about you might have an idea of what something is like or where somewhere is, but have you been to it? Have you gone around the neighbourhood? Have you understand actually what's there,
Yeah.
what's available to you? Do you like the street? Do you like the locations? Does it match your wish list? If you've got a young family, is it near to the schools? Does that work? Does it have parking? Is there parks for the kids to play at? Is there shops? Is there schools? Is there transport? Is there outside space? Is there trees? Is there enjoyable space? Is there lifestyle? Do you like walking? Is it near golf clubs? It's all of those things that you really need to understand about a place.
That's a really good one. And I always remember the story when I would get people to register and they'd go, I want a detached property. I don't want anything other than a detached property. And I want it to be, you know, like traditional, maybe stone built. Okay, right, okay. But we're going with that. You're going right. So is it definitely a detached property? Yeah, it has to be a detached property. So what happens if one of the Victorian townhouses at the Links Road in Leiden, just round the corner from the beach and the golf course, comes up for grabs and it's a terraced, mid-terraced? Oh, I'll consider that. Okay.
Totally different.
Detached properties then. We've got a different criteria.
Mm.
This is about taking people to the next steps, isn't it?
Absolutely,
and understanding really truly what their needs are. And it is often, and this is fact, it is often what people start out with in the beginning, they end up with something completely different.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
they don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And when they eventually find the house that they really love, they don't really care about all the what we call the features in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They just want the benefits that go with it.
Yeah.
And then they don't bother about things like, I'm not really bothered if it's detached or no, because it's got 6-foot walls in between. You know, we're in a really good aspirational neighbourhood. So the neighbours aren't going to be antisocial or anything like that either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're just near to the beach and we're round the corner from the golf course, and you know, our kids are just going to love it, and it's going to be a great community feel because they've got a vibrant community ongoing through their maybe local community council, maybe the local events that goes on. That's what people want to buy. They're not too bothered about being exact about the house. They just want to make sure they get the right circumstances and the right feel and the benefits they want from it.
Definitely. So that is important, and I think it's important as well if people don't do it that they should be setting all themselves up for alerts as well. So your right moves and Zooplas. So all of your sites that are going to give you the ideal location. So you know you should be setting yourself up there. Let your agent know as well, because actually, as you've just said there, Jim, often what we've done with people that are going out to view properties is we said, you know, and it's maybe not actually ticked the box. We said, well, actually, we've got one round the corner. It's not quite like this, but maybe it's worth you having a look at it. And they'll go and have a look at it, and then they fall in love with that one. And it's like you said, it's that sometimes the compromise and flexibilities they don't even realise that they need to make until they see something, do they?
Absolutely, and it's good actually to say up. You know, we can't be everything to everyone at every point in time with the right move, and Rightmove's very efficient. Zoopla's very efficient with alerts as well. I would probably recommend Zoopla more than Rightmove, because Zoopla will have more estate agents, because not every estate agent can afford to go on Rightmove.
Yeah.
So Zoopla catches probably a lot more alerts. So that's probably one I'd recommend the most. If you're gonna register with one of them, that's probably the one I would recommend, because they catch more of the properties available for sale.
Yeah.
And when it does come up, jump on it straight away. Don't hang about. It's like, oh, the market's slow. The market's slowing down. Is there going to be a property crash? For goodness sake, put that out of your mind. That is just not at this point in time, and that's going to hedge and cause delays to what you're thinking and how you're thinking, and somebody else is going to be way ahead of you and jump in there, and you've just lost your dream house as a result of that, just because of if, buts, and maybes.
I know.
If you're living it for 20 years, it makes no difference, does it?
No, exactly, and that's the thing, isn't it? But the thing that we often come across, and actually we're going to give people a bit of advice here that they 9 times out of 10 when I deliver it, when I'm out with people, don't particularly like, but I often get the statement, oh, I'll not be selling mine till I buy a house. The reality is, actually, you shouldn't be putting offers on any house until you've got an offer on your own.
Yeah, ideally, that's the key. It's amazing how I am always amazed at how the process works in somebody's mind. It's like, I want a cash buyer to buy my house. It's in the best position to proceed. but I'm not prepared to put my house in the market, and I'll put an offer in on somebody's house on the premise that I'm going to sell my house. And so you're expecting the person that you're going to buy from to actually accept your offer. And if you were that person, you wouldn't accept that offer.
Exactly. Often happens.
Yeah, double standards, eh?
Aye, totally. But it's good for the goose and all that.
But a good solicitor will actually say to people, will actually be very upfront with their buyer and say to them, I'm not putting an offer based, with some of that criteria not in there. So they will actually deliberately put things. You've got a house to sell, you've got a mortgage to arrange, all these different things. They will not put clean offers in for someone knowing full well that they've maybe got a house to sell and they can't proceed otherwise. Because
Absolutely.
that in their, well, in most people's opinions, is probably pretty immoral in terms of what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not even just that it's best practice. It's just not right to be doing it, is it?
Yeah, definitely. So it's the one thing we get all the time. But again, I'll come back to saying I'll not be putting my house on until I get a house, as offer accepted for mine. And this is why, I'll just finalise and say to people, it's all about managing the sale. If you can manage the sale, if you're a estate agent that's clever enough to be able to manage the sale and chain build at the same time, which is a technique that's long forgotten, because chain building's no been around for a lot of years because the market's been pretty buoyant. So some of the new estate agents that are new entrants into this market have no idea or no experience of chain building and what that entails. Probably some of them will, what? Is that the wee paper thing that you used to make at school when you were in primary for Christmas? That's what they'll think chain building
That's what chain building is.
Yeah, chain building. Is that not what I do at Christmas when I was a wee boy or a wee girl? It's like, no, that's no chain building. It's a bit more complicated than that. But I think that's important to understand that, and have a good estate agent could actually be able to work with that, especially in the market we're coming across to now. So what's next then? What's the next steps for anybody that wants to go ahead and out of this? What's the final words from you, Perry?
For me, I think the next steps are, obviously they need to be prepared, they need to be structured, they need to be organised, they need to be educated on actually all of the steps, because for some it might have been many years since they've bought and sold a property. So, get yourself ahead of the game, speak to an agent that's going to be able to advise you rightly, and then you can make good decisions and choices from there and get yourself to a good start, really.
Yeah. My one is speak to someone, again, as you said, speak to someone earlier, sooner rather than later. Do not leave it till the last minute. Even though you're selling next year and the next 6 months, and you don't think you want the hassle of doing that, just go through the process. You don't know what you don't know. And I'll tell you what, you don't want to leave yourself to the last minute. There's so many examples I can give you where people have left themselves under pressure in the last minute and said, right, I've got the place I'm buying, I need to sell my house now. And it's not happened as to how they expected. The price wasn't the one that the price that they were going to get. It's no longer there. The entry date was no longer there. They couldn't get a buyer to agree. It had a mortgage, and the mortgage of the buyer was actually taking a lot longer to sell. So it was putting them under pressure with their house purchase that they've agreed to. And this is why you need to speak to an estate agent way before you start this journey. And as well, if anything, it could save you an absolute fortune.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're sitting thinking, I need a new kitchen, I need a new bathroom, I need new tiling, I need new wiring, I need new heating, I need new carpets, I need new decoration. And an estate agent walks in the door and says, nah, you're not doing any of that. You're ready to go as it is, and you're not going to add any significant value to it. By doing that, all you're going to do is push your price higher and get less buyers as a result.
Yeah.
So I think that's my advice for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's finish up there. Thanks very much for coming on the show, Perry.
You're
really
welcome.
Appreciate it. And everybody for tuning in. If you've got any questions for later on, please feel free to ask. Until next time, guys, it's bye-bye for now.
Bye.